Justice and injustice in America, two cases gripping the nation. The injustice in Wisconsin, a new trial beginning over the deaths of 6 innocent people at a Christmas parade over the weekend, with everyone wondering why the suspect was allowed back out on the streets after his last arrest. Then there is justice in Georgia, a jury there just finding all 3 men charged with Ahmaud Arbery's death guilty of murder, with the man who pulled the trigger being found guilty on all charges. We take a look at both, but first, Jeff Paul is at the courthouse in Georgia with more. Jeff?
Yeah, Dagan, a huge sense of relief for the hundreds of folks who were gathered outside the courthouse here at one point in Brunswick, Georgia. You could tell there was a bit of nervousness as they waited for the jury to come back from deliberations with their decision. But once the judge started going down the list of the defendants and all the counts they faced, there was a lot of celebration and cheering outside the courthouse. All 3 men found guilty of multiple counts of murder. It took the jury just under 12 hours and 2 days to come to that decision. And for the family and all the folks who've spent days on end watching this trial, they say justice is overarching word that comes to mind in this situation. They say the men responsible for killing Ahmaud Arbery are finally being held accountable and that his memory will now live on the way it should.
Decades from now, they'll be talking about a boy named Ahmaud Arbery that taught this country what justice looks like. And let us know that all whites are not racist. Come on. And all blacks are not worthless. Come on. That we're all your children.
Now, the lawyer for William Bryan, that's the man who filmed a portion of the shooting, says he's going to be filing a motion for a new trial in the coming weeks. That was expected. The judge, meanwhile, saying that sentencing could happen in a couple of weeks. But when you look at the severity of all these counts they were found guilty on, it's likely that all 3 men could spend the rest of their life in prison. Dagan?
Jeff, thank you so much for that. Greg, very often the media and the left insert race where there isn't, where it's not an issue, but here it was.
Yeah, I'm just glad that not all whites are racist.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend. Wonder how Tawana Brawley feels. All right, so humans do like to group things, especially when incidents happen close together. For me, you have the Rittenhouse case and you have the Arbery murders. These are close together, but it shows you that if you pick the right filter, which is the filter of self-defense, you would have easily predicted the outcomes of both cases. Yeah. If you had used a different filter, like race, you wouldn't have. But if you use self-defense, obviously Rittenhouse, clearly self-defense. Arbery, obviously, clearly murder. The prism of self-defense would have told you how that would have panned out. But if you just look at it through race, you would have seen the Rittenhouse case incorrectly. You would have been told erroneously that his victims were black and that it didn't matter if they were white because those were white guys protecting black protesters. None of this is real. And you might have gotten the Arbery case correct, but that would have been probably by luck. The point is you need to have more than one filter in life or you're going to be very, very confused. I feel great about this decision. The justice system worked, especially when the media went full on, as you suggest, racist, assuming that only white jurors only vote in a specific way, and they grouped in a bigoted, uniform, bigoted manner. And we know that this isn't true. And it shows you how every case is different. Every case is nuanced. Avoid these sweeping generalizations. Although my favorite take was from an organization, because right when a verdict happens, or the organizations will send out an email to you about, this is my favorite one. I won't say who this organization was. The verdict is a reminder of much needed reforms in our nation's legal system. So I was thinking, but what if it came back as not guilty? They would have had the same response. So hence, their actual response is inherently meaningless if you can use it or apply it anywhere.
And Dana, the legal system worked in an incredible way. And it doesn't bring Ahmaud Arbery back. But the original prosecutor, Jackie Johnson, on this case, she was removed. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took it over. Not only did she lose re-election, but she was brought up on charges by a grand jury related to her handling of it. Because, again, George...
Well, what happened was, remember, because she passed. She was like, yeah, I'm not going to prosecute. Right. And then there was legitimate outrage about that, and eventually you get to this result. One thing that's also interesting is that we're celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow as a country, and we give thanks for our nation and our system. And a trial by jury, sometimes it's slow and it takes a long time. It's been a year and a half. But you know what? It works. And if you are somebody who says, well, it worked in one case and not in the other, in these two cases, you can't actually do that. So I think that we have kind of a lot to be grateful for and that the system worked.
In fact, and to that point, Jessica, after the verdict, you had a representative for the prosecutor and Ahmaud Arbery's family and everyone standing around her cheering the mention of law enforcement, cheering the mention of the prosecutors. And that's kind of different, refreshing and different.
Definitely. Well, that's always been the dichotomy versus what you hear about who likes law enforcement and who actually likes law enforcement. Like the highest approval ratings for having more police on the streets come out of the communities that are most affected by crime. That's no surprise. And unfortunately, in too many cities, that's Black and brown communities that are living below poverty lines, et cetera. I think those moments are important. Hearing from Ahmaud Arbery's mother that her son is finally at peace and at rest was something particularly moving. It was pretty quick as well. I know that everyone thought this could come back last night. It seemed pretty conclusive. There were so many counts. It was 9 counts, I think, for all of them to make sure that the jury got through. But this is a good day. And it's a good day, like the day that Derek Chauvin was convicted is a good day. And also that Kyle Rittenhouse was let off on a self-defense charge. And I hope that this starts a precedent of not having these riots for these things, because that's really what you wake up thinking. Like, obviously, you want someone to go to jail if they have murdered someone, but you also fear for your city or country, wherever you are, that people are going to take to the streets and it's going to turn into the summer of 2020 again. And hopefully when things have gone through the legal system and it does work, the jury system does work, we can all just sit there and take in what we heard during the case and the verdict and be calm about it.
Right, and if you have the misfortune of living in a large liberal city, you have to sit back and watch people set your city afire and destroy businesses and then never even get charged with those crimes. You're from Georgia. How do you feel about this? Or maybe not even feelings. Just what do you think of it?
No, listen, both of these cases had an element that is kind of new to the world, which is video evidence. Yeah. And I think one thing I took away from both of these cases over the last 2 weeks, and what I hate is, from the moment the Rittenhouse verdict was announced and I started commenting on it as someone who understands the Second Amendment and firearms and the perspective I have to comment on, the idea of self-defense being completely legal, to the moment this verdict came out today, there's like a little section on Twitter. It's like, but what about the Ahmaud Arbery case? What about the Ahmaud Arbery case? So I didn't comment on Kyle Rittenhouse until the jury had a chance to see every shred of evidence and make a decision. Then I could comment on things that I thought I understood, but perhaps didn't because I wasn't there every day of the trial. And the same thing with this. These men, by all intents and purposes, and everything that was put out in the public for me to digest, chased this man down and killed him because they didn't like him in their neighborhood and thought they could. The one thing that's scary about both of these cases that I think really is what we need to address is we have this narrative, oh, we have this national institution against poor people or against black people. No, what we have small town courts and legal systems that can screw you over in a heartbeat. I mean, we had a prosecutor in Kenosha, Wisconsin that didn't want to release the true video of Kyle, the aerial footage. And then we had a prosecutor in small town Georgia that might not have wanted to try this case because of either the optics of racism or the fact that the neighbor was a retired cop. And neither one of those things should ever happen in this country. That's the one thing we shouldn't have to worry about, is not having a chance at a fair trial. And at least with video evidence, it gets that much harder for some small town legal system to make you the victim of their own angst or inability to be embarrassed by what happened in their town.
But you know, it's next week, right? Don't we have Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yes.
I mean, there's like these things, and then I think there's Jussie Smollett.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm watching that one.
But are they, I mean, A, are they televised? And B, to your point, Ghislaine doesn't have, there's no video.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? There's no video.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those things where we won't really understand it and where you know, we may not see what we want to see.
Well, but there are a lot of victims that are on record and are already on tape, so we will have those interviews aired.
Are they televised? Are they those two televised?
No, we can check.
No, we're at cable. We should television. We should know this. Oh, Maxwell isn't.
Not.
The voices in my head just told me.
I know she wasn't, you know, now that she's been in prison, she won't have the hairdo, so I guess that works out in to her advantage.
I'm just glad you know how to say her name right. I would not have.
I'm not
I don't think he's right.
I don't think it is, but I don't want to venture a guess.
I know it's Ghislaine.
It's Ghislaine.
It's
Ghislaine? That's not as fun.
No, it's not.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.